Are you serious? Are you serious, folks? Great to have everybody here today. What a powerful broadcast we're going to have for you today. No question about it. NobleGoldInvestment.com, www.noblegoldinvestment.com is really a great company. And joining us today will be Colin Plume. Let me tell you something right now. Can the United States economy bounce back? And some people have begun to say, not so sure we can ever get back to where we were pre-corona. Trump has a different idea, I think. As a matter of fact, we just heard from Wilbur Ross, who is the Commerce Secretary of the United States. He said, there is no doubt the coronavirus pandemic has dramatically impacted our day-to-day lives, and Americans are making adjustments to everything from their morning routines to how they're managing their money. And families have yearned for good economic news for several months now. And last week we saw the beginning of an economic revival they so desperately need. By multiple predictions, May and June are likely to be the kind of the area of recession, followed by a sharp recovery toward the early fall. But according to the ADP National Employment Report for May, showed a number of newly unemployed drop to below 3 million versus a consensus forecast of 7 million. So that means this reopening of the economy apparently bumped quicker than we thought it would. And that could be great indication that America may be on its way back. Of course, we're not out of this coronavirus thing yet, and all the all the effects of it. But let's get some real serious professional advice from the man that knows, Colin Plume from NobleGoldInvestments.com. Colin, how you doing today?
Pastor Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you. Doing well, and I think it's a lot of numbers getting thrown out there, a lot of speculation about where the economy is going. Is our economy strong? The stock market, and I think that the key is that the stock market and the economy are separate, and I think that's something always to keep in mind, is that they're, in some ways, they have some connection to each other. But is our economy strong on one side? Is the stock market strong on the other side? And how is that going to affect us going forward? And I think you have these strong job reports coming out. There has been some hiring, but the question really is this a real restarting of the economy, or is there going to be a false start? Because obviously we're seeing a lot of the COVID tests coming out, and obviously the numbers are spiking, and it's hard to know where things are going to go in terms of states like Arizona. Are they going to shut down again? So I think we're cautiously optimistic. But I think we have a long way to go before we get out of this.
Yes, I mean, May was good to see that we gained 2.5 million new jobs in May. Our unemployment levels fell from 14.7 to now 13.3. That's a long way from 3%, which we were at. But let's feel a little optimistic with that. But like you said, is that a false start? And when you look at the Dow Jones, it was at 29,500. Okay, today as we speak, it's at 26,000. Okay, that's better than 19.5 for sure. But, what does it all mean? Gold is still surging. Silver seems to be picking up. Bitcoin's strong. So those are the other indicators, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that, anytime, and I was saying this, last month, obviously when people start to get out again, they're going to start to go to restaurants, they're going to start spending some money. And, and I think, when you look at, Wilbur Ross talking about that he thinks that we're going to pull out of this pretty quickly. A lot of it has to do with spending. I mean, that's, are people going to be willing to spend? In April, savings, like people had saved at an unbelievable rate. They were saving almost 14% of their income, which typically our savings rate in the United States is between 5 and 6%. So people were saving a huge amount in April. And now the reports for June haven't come out, but basically it looks like people are getting out and sort of spending again. They're not being as cautious. And I think there's just a lot of different ways to look at where this new economy is going to go. I think that the thing that I'm concerned about, and I think from an economy's point of view, is that, you're looking at real estate, will real estate bounce back? Because you're going to have, mortgage default numbers are going to be coming up dramatically because people are out of work. Companies that have shut down. There was 100,000 small businesses that closed down within 2 weeks of the shutdown of the pandemic. So, you have a lot of these factors that, people can ride it out for a few months, 4, 5, 6 months. Obviously, the government's put $4 trillion, but that money it's not going to be sitting there for long. It's going to get spent. And then are they going to get jobs again? Are companies going to feel comfortable hiring? Are restaurants going to hire? And then you look at a lot of the big employers, you look at companies like all these sporting events and all the venues. If, those places don't open back up, that's a lot of lost revenue for states, a lot of lost job revenue in different places. And I just don't think that we're going to be able to open those things up on a mass scale this year. So I think that, we'll see unemployment creep down. I think we're going to hover, below 10 probably for the rest of this year. And, I think that's still a very scary number if you look at where our economy is. And I think that the government's going to continue to stimulate. I think low interest rates and spending money is that's forever now. It's never going anywhere. And that's why gold and silver really do well, because these are assets that have a limited supply. The nice thing about being in assets that can't be manipulated or printed, like the dollar, is that there's a limited amount of them out there. And typically when you see heavy inflation, which absolutely we're in right now, those assets are going to do really well. So smart investors are moving into safety. You have all these billionaires, Paul Tudor Jones, and all these, billionaires buying gold and gold mines. So they want to be safe. So I think it's really just a matter of getting through this year and then kind of seeing where we end up, closer to 2021. But I think to think that we're going to recover this year with the economy, I think it's way too fast. Too much damage was done.
Yeah, you're putting out a great point, and you're right about spending. If people are starting to spend, that means they're a little more confident. But boy, I tell you what, if you open the stadiums, if college football and NFL football is back with fans and people fill the stadium, if the colleges return, the kids are in school and they're playing college football, that is an indicator that, and they pack the stadium, then you have an economy starting to come back. If the stadiums are half full.
And those are all up there. I know NFL has not committed to closing. Major League Baseball basically is in trouble because they don't get enough TV revenue to stay open. They can't run a season just on TV revenue, where the NBA can, the NFL probably could if they had to. So you have a lot of these sporting venues that are in limbo in terms of what they're going to do this year. But yeah, I think it's a time where people are looking at, what their options are financially. And I think the new world, if you got laid off, are you going to go back into that same job? Or are you going to try to open up a business at home and sort of, control your own destiny and your own fate, so to speak? So I think a lot of people are going to be changing how they're doing things, just in terms of their day-to-day life. And it was at the beginning, when I would be on meetings and I'd hear babies crying in the background in every meeting, including my kids, it was abnormal. But now, to be honest, it's not abnormal. No. That's sort of where we are at this point, that people are just used to having a home work environment. And I think that in the end, I think for the family, it's good. It'll be good to have, parents and kids around each other more. But I think there's a lot of industries that sort of rely on people going into an office, including restaurants and office buildings. And if they don't do that, there's going to have to be a shift of, people not going out as much. And where are those jobs, like where those office buildings, if they're getting more and more vacant and the restaurants around them aren't being serviced and people aren't going out, what's going to replace those jobs? And I really just don't know we don't have anything there yet. Now, the big talk is moving all of the more manufacturing back here in the US and kind of hunkering down and really focusing on making most of our products here. That will be good for us. That's going to take some time, but that's going to be really good for the silver industry, because a lot of the industries that are coming here, they're going to use silver in manufacturing. So I really think people that haven't acquired any silver, they should really look at it. It's still at a very low price, and they should look at how everything is going electric and how everything's kind of moving in this direction. And they're going to have to use silver. They use silver in solar panels. They use silver in the camera we're talking on right now, or everything that we kind of use electronics-wise has some silver components in it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how these industrial metals perform with this new shift in the homework dynamic.
This is great observation here. Again, Colin Plume, noblegoldinvestments.com. That's www.noblegoldinvestments.com. You can pick up the phone and call Colin or one of his associates at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And you're talking about silver, and it's sitting around $17.60 an ounce, which is up a little bit, but you're right. And a lot of analysts have been saying the day is coming when silver's going back to $30 an ounce, maybe even $50 an ounce. Some folks even think possibly $100 an ounce. Who knows? But I think we're going to see a surge in silver and gold. I still think gold, which is right now hovering just below $1,700 an ounce, it could easily still get to $2,000 an ounce, folks, before this year is over. Here's a couple things you said. All right, if people are going to start working from home, then what do the bankers do? Because there's a lot of property. Okay, so are these guys going to be lending to the housing industry freely, since people are going to be building homes, building additions on their homes for offices? Yeah. Do you see a change in the lending, but what's it do to corporate lending? And then again, restaurants are going to move to the suburbs. If people move away from the inner city because of the corona, the rioting, and the inconvenience, there's a whole paradigm shift in the economy, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing about the telecommuting aspect, and I think everybody is sort of thinking about this now, is that the one thing that I look at is the burnout rate of the American worker, and we are historically one of the hardest working countries in the world, just in terms of us. We work hard. It's how this country was built. And I think that one of the things that I'm excited about is in terms of just day-to-day mental health, having a less of a commute, pulling the commute away and creating a home environment for a lot of people, pulling people out of their cars, commuting. Some people, I talked to one person, we were looking at hiring, and she had told me that she used to commute an hour each way to work. And, that's going to have a negative effect on your life and the growth of your life and your family life, right? Going away from your family for minimum of 2 hours a day, plus the other 8 hours you're working. So I'm really excited for this sort of shift in how people will be, around their families a little bit more or less commuting. And the first few years are going to be bumpy, but I think the grand scheme is that the American worker is going to benefit greatly from this. And, what I hope is that the shift of this will come down to the money will continue to flow for regular people. And unfortunately, I think the big office buildings and this like that are going to be in trouble. But, a lot of those are owned by larger corporations, and they can sort of withstand it. But we do need to continue the lending for the average American if they are working from home, if they want to add on a home office or space within their location to work. So, with every, conflict, with every situation, even with 2008, a lot of good things popped out of it eventually. You had these cryptocurrencies that were evolved because people were sick of the banks. And now I think people are moving away from having to drive really far into work. And so it's going to be it's going to be a good shift for us as Americans, and ultimately that'll be a positive thing. But to go back to the numbers, I really have to say, I think people need to look closely at these reports coming out, because even 13.3% unemployment is a number we have not seen and most people have never even seen it in their life. And so we're still at a very high point for unemployment. And I think the only reason it doesn't feel as bad as it really is because the government has come in and sent some dramatic checks to people. But, eventually that's going to end. We can't continue to pay people, $1,200 a month. And once that ends, then I think the psychological effect of, I don't have a job, I'm not getting this stipend every month, what's going to happen now? That's going to have a shift in people's thoughts about the economy.
Yes, that is going to be really the come to Jesus moment, and I think that's coming. Now, knowing that that's on its way, and not to be too political here, and I'm with you here, because I understand people are going to invest and are investing, and they should diversify into gold and silver and precious metals, palladium, platinum, these type of things. But all right, you got Joe Biden somewhere in the basement. You got President Trump. Does America really want to shift gears in the middle of this corona readjusting economy? The average American, forget about how they feel politically, but do people feel safer with Trump trying to get us out of this? We saw what he did when he was turned loose and there was no pandemic. The economy roared to an all-time record. Yeah. Now, do you trust him to bring us back out, or do you go to Joe Biden and a whole new mentality of socialism and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think from a financial point of view, it's hard to argue that shifting a new president would be good financially. But obviously there's a lot of factors when someone decides on who they're going to vote for president. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to know a lot in September of this year, October of this year, based on where unemployment is, and that's really going to dictate what's going to happen with your reelection, in my opinion, more than anything else. Most people vote with their pocketbooks, so I think it's really going to come back to if Trump stays in office, it's going to be him convincing large corporations to continue to hire, maybe getting some companies to move some of their factories back to the U.S., which is something that he really focused on, which would create a lot of jobs. I think those are the big two hurdles, just if you're voting financially. But when Trump got elected, everyone thought that the economy was going to tank, and it actually went in the exact opposite direction. So it's interesting. It's always hard to predict what's going to happen with an election, but when he was elected, initially everyone thought that the economy was going to tank, and they were absolutely wrong.
Yeah, and most of those people didn't understand. They listened to the media, and they didn't understand that when you cut taxes, then you cause a growth to begin with businesses. And when you cut bureaucracy and you get the EPA out of the way and some of these other terrible laws, people turn loose and they start investing. And I think the average American didn't understand that. Also, when you put tariffs on China and start putting America first. And what happens? Factories start making their own products, and overseas plants start moving in. He incentivized all that to happen. I knew what was going to happen. I didn't expect it to go absolutely skyrocket, but yeah. So anyway,
I think people are always amazed where the stock market goes, because it doesn't, when you think about it relative to actual value of money, the stock market does go up, but also a lot of it is a reflection of the fact that money is just losing a tremendous amount of value. I mean, it's not an equal situation, but I do think that, looking at the numbers and looking at how much money is just being pumped in the economy, and this happened long before Trump was in office. I mean, we've been pumping money in the economy since 2001 at an unprecedented rate. So, the price of a stock or the price of all these things is, a lot of it is just based on the fact that the dollar has lost value and that there's so much cheap money out there. So, it's a world now of, and it's different than when, my parents or grandparents started, where the idea was you had to put some money in a savings account. Those days, frankly, are gone, because you can't really survive by putting money in a savings account anymore, because the returns are so pitiful. So you have to invest. This economy is based on, you have to get out there and invest. And in a lot of ways, you have to get out there and take risks as either opening a business or, investing in different things. It's a different mindset than 30, 40, 50 years ago. And, some people thrive in that environment because they're able to shift, and they're able to move. I talk a lot about like recalibrating your portfolio. A lot of people, they don't like this premise because they want to just stay in the same thing forever. And I really think that to maximize returns, recalibrating, looking at opportunities, and seeing what's out there is really a way to do it. And you don't always make a big change, but I think there is times that you have to look at different assets and say, you know what, I think I've maxed a return here, or maybe it's time to get into something else. So I think a recalibration for a lot of investors is in order. And, I think a lot of people are doing that this year. We've seen a surge in metals, but I think always keeping an eye and especially it's as much as you have more time, you're at home, it's a good time to put your finances, look at them on a monthly basis, see how much you have, see what your goals are for retirement, and just make sure that you're moving in the right direction and you're doing all the things that you should be doing.
Folks, Colin Plume is with us. This is noblegoldinvestments.com. That's www.noblegoldinvestments.com. You can call Colin or one of his associates at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347. And you know what? One consistent thing throughout the biblical ages, gold and silver has always been the fallback, always the mainstay. I was just reading the scripture, Colin, yesterday in the book of Haggai. It says, God said, all the gold and the silver is mine. In other words, I put my seal of approval on gold and silver, and every economy of every empire in the history of the world ultimately has been based on precious metals. Even though, so your point about, quantum easing, which we saw after the 9/11, we started cranking it under Bush. Obama just kept the presses running. Trump tried to slow him down a little bit. Then he said, well, we got to fire him back up again. I mean, we've been living off this monopoly money for a long time. So diversifying. You can't really put money in a savings account because the money may not have much value. The only thing that has some kind of substance to it would be precious metals. We got to diversify, don't we?
Yeah, and it's funny because if you get these flyers in the mail about banks are trying to entice you with buying a bond or a CD, and they say like best rates in the industry, and it's like 1.25% or 1.5%.
It's terrible.
It's laughable. I mean, I don't know who's interested in that. Unless someone's managing your money and they just are required to diversify into stuff that they don't have to think about. But I just who can keep up with the cost of goods making a, 1.25%, 1.5%. So and that's where we are. And in my opinion, will never change. It doesn't matter. The Fed meetings, a half a point here, half a point up, half a point down. The only way interest rates go up is that eventually, if we lose our world reserve currency status and we can't print money, which a lot of people believe will happen, then our interest rates will go up significantly, because we can print at will. Nobody can stop us with how much we're the world's reserve currency, so we can do basically whatever we want. So either that happens, or the other thing that would happen is that China and some of these countries basically say, listen, we're not loaning you any more money. You guys are already $23 trillion in debt. We're done. And we're going to go ahead and start calling in these loans. And here's what we want. We want some pieces of real estate, because you owe us money and you're not going to be able to pay us. So they're going to start attaching themselves to assets. And people think that and they, that possibly can't happen, but that absolutely can happen. That happened in, I believe in Spain, that they defaulted on their debt. And the hedge fund that bought that debt basically came in and said, you owe us this money, and if you don't pay us, we're going to start attaching ourselves to some of your assets. The world could in essence do that to us. Now, we're a big economy, and it's never happened, but it's not impossible for the world to say, that's it. We're not going to take any more of your bonds. We're not going to take any more of your IOUs. Pay us what you owe us. And at that moment, watch out. Gold and silver, at numbers you've never seen it before, because people will just basically say, well, what's the real currency of the world? And they'll know that the real currency of the world is gold, and the price will hit the numbers that it probably should.
Kyle, this reminds me of the days I used to coach AAU basketball in Kentucky back about, how many years has that been now? 16 years ago, I guess. I used to coach these guys, and they had a great team. And we wanted to go to this one tournament, and we needed $1,000 to go. And I said, guys, you can earn this money this weekend. There was a big softball tournament going on at the park with like 3 fields, and it was July. So I said, here's $100. I said, here's $100. I want you to go down to the grocery store and buy bottles of water, put it in your refrigerators, and take it out to the park and sell them for $1 a bottle. Now, when you're done after this weekend's over, you're going to make $1,000 or more. Bring me back 200. Bring me back 200. And you'll have the money to go. They raised $2,500 and brought me back $200. It doesn't take a lot. People can make money if you go out and buy 24 bottles for $4 and sell them at $1 a piece. That's still cheaper than the store. Find the right area where people are thirsty, and it can happen. It's the same thing. People, don't wait around on the government to feed you. You got to start thinking. Stop the stinking thinking. You got to start thinking how you can be a part of making a difference in your life. And everyone can. And I think that's what Colin Plume is trying to say. Don't trust the stock market and sit back and wait on your pension. You might need to put some money away. And if you're going to put it away at 1% interest, no. Take a look at precious metals. NobleGoldInvestments.com, www.noblegoldinvestments.com. Pick up the phone. Call them, 877-646-5347. And they don't have to start with a lot of money, do they, Colin, to get invested here?
No. I mean, we have every walk of life. People talk to us that, work for the government for, 30 years or, any job you can think of. We have clients in all demographics. We're here to basically educate people about what we do. And, really that's just getting education and learning is the key to this year should be a year of learning and really focusing on yourself and what you're going to need to do to make sure you have enough money to retire and live a good life. And, at the end of the day, whatever, way you go, whatever you decide to do, the key is that don't put your head in the sand and just trust the advice that's out there. You have to go out and get information and learn on your own. And I think you and I have sort of always focused on that. And that's why, I always tell people, like, gold and silver might be right for you. It may not be the investment for you, but we're just offering something that's different than what's out there. And at the end of the day, you should know all of your options so you can make a determination. Because so many people come to us and say, I'm in the stock market, I have all this money, I have no idea what I'm invested in. And it's like, this is your money. This is your, and now's the time. Maybe you didn't have the time before, but now is the time. Get in there, open up that account, look at the statement, look at the funds that you're in, open up the mutual fund, look at the stocks that they're buying, and make sure that this is what you want to do with your money. Take control. Be the boss of your finances is what we really talk to people about.
And folks, if you got laid off or if your company let you go and you have a 401k, now's the time to roll that over and you can diversify it. That's the time to do it. That way you're not penalized, and you can diversify, maybe put 25% of it in gold and silver and the rest of it, move it around in different mutual funds. Let these guys kind of help you out, or maybe some Bitcoin. I don't know. But
Bitcoin is in the same account. Bitcoin's had a great run this year. You can do gold and silver in the same account. We have information on both. So, don't hesitate to, if you just want to learn about Bitcoin, call us. We've had a lot of clients do really well in both. Gold and silver and Bitcoin have done really well for everybody this year. So give us a call. And Pastor Paul, thank you as always. Always fun to be on the show and, talk about what's happening in the economy.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you so much. You're the man. You are awesome. NobleGoldInvestments.com, www.noblegoldinvestments.com. Great friends of our ministry, Christian company. They're family owned and great people. Pick up the phone, call them at 877-646-5347. And we'll be back with you next time right here, guys, on the coming apocalypse.